Human smugglers, some of them were arrested in Pakistan. Some of course, those their facilitators who are based in either Libya or in Greece. So they are beyond reach. So please share with us, because it's a global issue. Ultimately, these all illegal immigrants becoming burden on Greek system. What steps, what measures Greek authorities are taking to tackle this particular issue?
Our migration is presented as the product of an illegal trade, the product of illegal human smugglers. Yeah, there certainly is, in addition to the pull and push factors.
So, any investigation on this particular matter? Pakistani authorities are in touch with the Greek authorities. Any clue about the facilitators in Greece? Because without facilitation, such huge illegal human smuggling cannot be done.
If there is somebody from the smuggling network on board, they are usually arrested. So my understanding is that there have been 6 people arrested in relation to the 4 boats that came over at the weekend.
What is the practice by other European countries? Have these European countries closed their borders? There are no entries and boats are pushed back, or what is the latest situation?
Well, one initiative that the European Union has taken is that they have been signing deals with a number of North African countries. Essentially signing deals with these governments and essentially asking them, in exchange for large sums of money, asking them to patrol their coasts as well.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Hello and welcome to Program Insight in V News English. Dear viewers, human smuggling has become a global issue. And recently, another boat which was trying to reach to Greece unfortunately capsized. And initially, 4 Pakistanis were declared dead, and they were confirmed dead by Pakistan Embassy and Greek authorities. But a large number of them were missing. Finally, it was confirmed that the overall figure of those Pakistanis who were missing, they were finally also declared dead. So the death toll has finally reached in this latest tragedy as 50. Every year, almost, this boat incidents like this latest ones take place. People from Libya, from other African countries try to reach to Greece. So in this conversation, we will try to explore, analyze, and find that what exactly is the root cause of this particular human smuggling, what is taking place, and those illegal immigrants who try to make entry into the Greece, why Greece so, and what is the response by the Greek authorities on this entire matter. Today, we are fortunately have with us one of senior post journalist, analyst, who is based in Athens and has an extensive reporting experience in multiple fields, in governmental affairs, in political affairs, in international reporting, Mr. Damien Mack. Mr. Damien Mack, good evening and very warm welcome to Program Insight in V News English. So I've already made introduction of this particular thing. Would you like to share your thoughts, your information about this illegal human smuggling that has become a frequent issue, and illegal immigrants try to make entry into Greece? Why Greece so? Other European countries have closed their coastal borders. Is it so?
Well, I believe there's a good evening from Greece. I believe there are a number of reasons for the for this phenomenon of human this migration move from the East and from Africa into the European Union and into Greece. I think there's a number of reasons why Greece is one of the countries at the front line of this migration wave. Greece, along with Italy and Spain, they form the southern border of the European Union. And I think this is the main reason why Greece and Italy and Spain are most commonly associated with this migration wave. Most of the migrants who enter into those three countries, Greece, Italy, and Spain, they don't intend to remain in those countries. Their intention is to move further into the European Union. And that's why these countries are chosen. They're also
country like Greece that you are mentioning.
Yes, they're certainly accessible. So Greece is really an island nation. It comprises of the mainland of Greece, but also hundreds of inhabited and uninhabited islands. Many of them are very, very close to Turkey. In some cases, there's only a distance of 10 kilometers or so between the Turkish mainland and Greek islands.
Greece.
So the distance is not that great.
Okay.
The distance is not that great from Turkey to some of the islands. So, for example, Rhodes, there's the island of Rhodes, the island of Lesbos, and a number of islands. They're very, very close to the Turkish coast. But also we have seen in recent times more migration traffic coming from Libya. So that boats will leave Tobruk, the city of Tobruk in Libya, and make their way over to the island of Crete. Crete is the southernmost island in Greece. It's quite a distance to travel by boat, but as there is more surveillance on the border between Greece and Turkey, the Libyan-Greek route is becoming more popular. And the incident that you mentioned at the start of the program, where a number of your compatriots unfortunately died in an attempt to enter Greece, that incident happened off a small island south of Crete, so off the island of Gavdos, and all of this happened over the weekend. There were 4 boats, we understand, that left Libya. They leave. It's a coordinated operation, so there'll be a large group of migrants will gather in Libya, 200, 250 in this case. They set out from the Libyan coast in 4 boats, maybe leaving every 20 or 30 minutes from one another. And all of those boats...
20 or 30 minutes?
In this specific case, that's what the Coast Guard believed. The Coast Guard believed that they came together. And in this case, one of the boats sank, leading to, 7 bodies were recovered. 80 were 39 were rescued. And as you said, there's quite a high number of people still missing. And that call has been, the search and rescue operation in that case has been called off. But in addition to that boat that sank, there were 3 other vessels, and the passengers on those vessels were picked up in one case by a Libyan cargo ship, in another case by a Maltese cargo ship, and in the third case by a British ship. So we had 4 boats with over 200 people rescued. So all of those people were subsequently taken to Greece. I think there are a number of factors. I think in all migration, there are pull factors and there are push factors. So if you look at the countries where a lot of the people are coming from, they are coming from countries that have or are experiencing war. So you have, I think the most common at the moment in Greece, the most common nationality of migrants entering Greece this year, you have Syrians, Afghans, Egyptians, Eritreans, and Palestinians. So I think everybody can recognize the push factors in those cases. And then there are also the pull factors. Europe is one of the wealthiest regions in the world. And that is, of course, something that does attract.
And it is the place of attraction, indeed.
That is the force of attraction. So I think you have push factors and pull factors. But certainly with Greece, most of the migrants entering Greece, they don't intend to stay in Greece. Their ultimate objective is to move further into the European Union. So Germany, France, the UK was formerly the EU.
It could be Spain. It could be other countries.
But yeah, definitely, Northern Europe is wealthier than Southern Europe. So The intention is to move further. There has been an increase this year in 2024. The EU Border Agency have said that in the first 11 months, so from January to November, there has been an 18% increase this year of migrants into Greece. So we have 64,000 this year compared to 46,000 in 2013. Now, of course, that figure is tiny compared to what we had in 2015, when there was a huge movement, primarily of people from Syria into Greece. We had 1 million in 2015.
This is very, very important information that you have shared. But now coming to what is the role of the governments? So, of course, there is a Greece government, and of course, if we compare definitely Pakistan with the other countries, Pakistan is a stable country. There is no conflict in Pakistan. So I would just like to, as a backgrounder, I would like to mention today, Pakistani Prime Minister has chaired a very high-level meeting in which these all aspects were taken into account. High-level investigation was ordered, and Pakistan's ambassador to Greece also joined the meeting via video link. And the toughest measures were announced by Prime Minister against human smugglers. Question is that human smugglers, some of them were arrested in Pakistan. Some of course, those their facilitators who are based in either Libya or in Greece. So they are beyond reach. So please share with us, because it's a global issue. Ultimately, these all illegal immigrants becoming burden on Greek system. What steps, what measures Greek authorities are taking to tackle this particular issue?
Yeah, there certainly is. In addition to the pull and push factors, as you said, there are smuggling networks. I mean, it is difficult. Europe offers asylum to certain groups of people according to certain criteria, but it's becoming increasingly difficult for people who fulfill those criteria to avail of the asylum. So in many cases, they resort to smugglers, or smugglers will offer a service. They'll say, well, if you pay us so many thousand, we will arrange your transport from your home country to Libya or to Turkey, where usually they will wait. Things are coordinated with mobile phones and technology and social media. Then they get the call, they're assembled on a beach and put on a boat and sent off. There's no doubt that some of the smugglers are utterly ruthless. So they charge a lot of money and often put their customers on unseaworthy vessels without life jackets, without safety and so on. So a lot of money is being made from this trade. But as I say, there are people who are deserving of asylum. They find that they have no other way to submit asylum applications, and they resort then to these unscrupulous smugglers. The climate in Europe has definitely changed in the last few years. There's certainly more of a focus on migration. Our migration is presented as the product of an illegal trade, the product of illegal human smugglers. So the language used has certainly changed. There are more deterrents. So Greece, for example, has built a fence along its small land border in the north of the country with Turkey. They've been increasingly building a fence along the land border.
And they must be patrolling as well, patrolling
and using drones and so on. And in the sea border, certainly along the islands that are very close to Turkey, there are increased Coast Guard patrols and so on. Mm-hmm. Then there's also a controversial aspect, which is the so-called pushbacks. And pushbacks are where there are allegations that the Greek authorities, when they see a boat coming from the Turkish side, they will use all sorts of methods to push the vessel back into Turkish waters. And that's very, very controversial. The pushbacks are illegal under the law, but there have been many allegations in recent years that pushbacks have become a sort of unofficial policy on some of the borders. And it's not just in Greece, it's also in Italy and also in Spain. And the major disaster that we had in 2023 in Pylos off the southern coast of Greece, where there was a boat going from Italy, apparently was heading towards, it had left Libya and it was heading towards Italy, but it had apparently moved due to bad weather close to the Greek coast. It wasn't in Greek waters, but it was close to the Greek coast. I mean, close, certainly nearer to Greece than Italy. And that boat went down with the loss of 600 to 700 people. I mean, I think 80 people were recovered and 50 bodies were retrieved. And there have been allegations that boat, that there was that the sinking was a result of a pushback, in that it was being towed by a vessel, and that caused the boat to sink. So it's still quite unclear what happened. There has been an investigation, but sometimes these investigations are carried out sometimes by the same people who are involved in them. So it still remains unclear what happened in that dreadful incident. So certainly there has been a changing climate in Europe. The European governments and the European Union have become less enthusiastic about migration. They fear that the belief is that the more migrants that come into the country, it's leading to an increase in the vote for far right parties. And we have seen in a number of elections in Europe, the far right, or certainly parties more to the right than the centre right parties that are in there at the moment. They're increasing their vote. They're increasing their influence, and many governments, fearing this increase in the vote, believe that the only way they can combat it is to limit migration. So I think we see that in most European countries. There's a move to make migration, or make the entry criteria, more and more difficult for people.
That's extremely very, very informative points that you have shared, that it's due to the closure of legal migration, such things are on the rise. And the European Union authorities are not that eager in opening or in expanding the legal migration. And of course, as you mentioned several factors, but Damien, one of the factors is, of course, economic inequality, conflicts. And if we go into the depth of these all things, of course, there are several factors involved why some of the prosperous, stable countries like Libya was pushed into the internal civil war. And then there have been, as you mentioned, it's a pull factor, of course. And because Europe is an economically attractive destination, which is why people from all around the world, even from India, from Pakistan, from African countries, they try to make entry into the European Union. And as you mentioned, that their destination is not Greece, but they gradually and eventually move to other countries. So on these boat tragedies that took place this year and 2023, and there have been series of such incidents in the past. So finally, the question is, investigations, as you said, it is a routine matter. Investigation used to be conducted. But on this particular biggest tragedy, where 50 people lost their lives, they were drowned. So any investigation on this particular matter, Pakistani authorities are in touch with the Greek authorities. Any clue about the facilitators in Greece? Because without facilitation, such huge illegal human smuggling cannot be done.
Yeah, I mean, usually after every tragedy, if there is somebody from the smuggling network on board, they are usually arrested. So my understanding is that there have been 6 people arrested in relation to the 4 boats that came over at the weekend.
This latest one.
Yes, that's my understanding, that there have been 6 arrests. Usually the survivors are able to point out to the authorities that there was somebody on board who was either directing the vessel, sailing the vessel, or was in charge. And we have heard, now these are people who come over on the vessels, and there has been some evidence in recent months that there are people then in Greece as well who are part of the networks. Often we hear that they have been arrested, but it takes time then for those cases to come to trial. So there was a large group of 20 to 25 people arrested on one of the Greek islands about 2 months ago. So it will take some time before we get the full details, before that comes to trial. But it's a very difficult, a national government trying to deal with these international networks. It's difficult. It's quite difficult to coordinate, because there are many parties and many governments involved. So I'm sure for the families involved, they would like to see some justice for their family members, and that's very important. And it's important too that they learn about the fate of their loved ones. But whether they'll get justice for what happened, that's another matter.
What is the situation in other European countries? Of course, most of the European countries have very large coastal line. So are those countries are very tough on pushing back? As you mentioned, that there is a controversy that the boats that comes from Turkey are pushed back. It is a controversial thing. But what about other European countries? Spain used to be Spanish coastal lines and coastal areas used to be an attractive place. The boats used to come from African countries straight away to Spain. So share with our international viewers that what is the practice by other European countries? Have these European countries closed their borders? There are no entries and boats are pushed back, or what is the latest situation?
One initiative that the European Union has taken is that they have been signing deals with a number of North African countries. Essentially signing deals with these governments and essentially asking them, in exchange for large sums of money, asking them to patrol their coasts as well. So there have been deals with a number of North African countries where their governments have received considerable sums of money, and they've also been tasked with stopping boats leaving their coast. So that's an approach that the European Union has taken to encourage to bring down the numbers of vessels crossing. But apart from Spain, Italy, and Greece, other European countries don't really have sea borders with countries where immigrants are coming from. The only place where you do see a lot of traffic now is between France and the UK, Britain, England specifically. Britain is no longer part of the European Union, but it still is a destination that migrants want to get to. So there are some migrants who do come in to Southern Europe, and for whatever reason they want to get to Britain. And the only way that they can get to Britain is by making the sea crossing from France to Dover.
English Channel.
Through the English Channel, and that again is there is smuggling taking place there, in that people pay smugglers money to facilitate them crossing over the English Channel. But in other European countries, you don't really see there are no arrivals as such by sea.
So, last but not the least, what do you think? There should be a global joint response and action, because it is becoming a global issue now. Earlier, you might have read, since you are a very senior journalist and analyst, there used to be boats moving from Indonesia to Australia to perhaps 90%. They have overcome this problem. So what do you think? There should be a joint global response in tackling this illegal human trafficking. And as you mentioned, some of the human smugglers are quite barbaric. They do not provide food. They are least interested in taking care of people either. And in many incidents, there have been children and women. And finally, once they reach to Greek or any other destination, their health conditions were extremely vulnerable.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose in an ideal world, there would be no need for people to migrate from one country to another if they could make make a living and have a good standard of living in the country of birth. I think many of the groups involved, there are many groups in Europe that say that Europe does need migration. It does need migration, legal migration, illegal migration. It needs migrants because one of the problems that Europe is facing is that societies are getting older. In Germany, for example, in other European countries, the societies are getting older and older, and so there are more deaths than births. So societies are getting older. They need younger people to work in their hospitals, to work in their factories, to work in jobs that they don't want to do. So that is one argument. One argument is that there needs to be more legal avenues to migration. So European countries need to sign deals with countries that can provide that labor and to allow people enter the European Union through legal means. But of course, I'm not sure whether anything that they could offer would be enough to accommodate all the people that want to come in. So certainly increasing legal routes into Europe would certainly help. It would circumvent the smugglers. It would make the smugglers' business irrelevant. If somebody could apply and enter the European Union legally, they wouldn't need to pay a smuggler 5,000 or 6,000 euros or whatever dollars, because the prices that you hear are incredibly high. So certainly I believe if European countries recognize that there is a demographic problem in Europe, they do need manpower to keep their economies going.
Exactly.
And they should have legal routes. This should facilitate the legal entry of people into Europe. So I think that would certainly help. But for political reasons, sometimes it's easier for governments to say, we don't want anybody. We don't want to take anybody in. And there are some governments in Europe that they believe that should be the approach, not to have any migration. So that's on the other extreme.
There is general perception, and that is while people make entry, either they come through air route or through ports or through land routes. It's very easy to get legalization in Greece. After 2-3 years, asylum cases are accepted. Is it so easy living in Greek as an illegal migrant, and how much time it takes in getting anyone getting a legal status and then finally working? What are the economic prospects and conditions in Greece? Because many, other than you and me, I'm a frequent traveler to Europe. So I travel to Europe and other countries, and you are an analyst. You definitely be me, and you already know economic indicators and all such things. But about those people who have no information about Greece or EU, what are the economic conditions of Greek? Are they ready to face this huge influx of illegal immigrants?
No, certainly the situation in Greece for migrants or people who've just entered the country, it's certainly not easy. I don't think people certainly don't get their papers in any easily or in a short space of time. People coming in can often spend months, if not years, in camps, in reception centres, where they're supposed to stay until their paperwork and their applications are processed. Even then, if they do get papers, the Greek economy is not as strong as some other European Union countries. So a lot of Greeks struggle in the economy. Greece had a big financial crisis over 10 years ago, and the effects of those crises are still present, are still around. A lot of young Greek people, they migrate to other parts of Europe because they don't believe that they can find a job that matches their qualifications and their education in Greece. So a lot of Greeks, after coming out of third level education, university, they get on planes themselves and they leave the country. So Greece doesn't have a huge amount to offer people coming in. But at the same time, I would still say that there is a demographic problem in Greece specifically, and Greece does need manpower to keep what it has going, for sure.
Last, since you have already spent a lot of time, what is the way forward to tackle this issue?
What is the, excuse me?
Way forward to tackle this issue.
I think there needs to be a mixture of, certainly the smuggling networks have to be tackled. But as I said earlier on, the only way to tackle the smuggling networks is to remove the logic of their business. I believe that there were legal routes for migration into Europe. I think you would remove not open, but certainly to allow a process there that if somebody in a foreign country believes that they would like to enter Europe and contribute to the European economy, that there are legal ways for them to apply for that.
Quickly, just a very brief question. And how many countries actually from Africa? As to some of the countries you have mentioned, it is Afghanistan, then Syria, then Libya, then many other countries. Even there have been people from Iraq. How many people and nationalities from the African region? Very quickly.
How many people are entering the European Union?
From the African region, exactly. Other than these Arab countries and Afghanistan and Pakistan.
Of late, well, as I said, in this year, the European Border Agency, that most of the people from African countries entering Greece are from Eritrea.
From Eritrea.
Eritrea. That's the that's the latest. This year, they form the biggest group of African countries coming in. But I can't give you the breakdown of all the others, unfortunately.
Thank you so much for speaking to Program Insight in V News English. Senior most journalist and analyst, Mr. Damien Mack, and who spoke in depth and highlighted different aspects of illegal human smuggling, what should be the response of the states, Greek as well as of European Union, and how globally this issue could be tackled. Thanks once again, and we look forward to have regular interaction with you on different issues as well. And dear viewers, till our next program, goodbye and Allah Hafiz from studios.